So is this being recorded?
It is
I've
being
seen.
recorded and we're
Oh, good.
live in just a second. It's going to pop up live. Just a second. There we go. It is live. Okay. It is being recorded. Hello, everyone. You can come in and say hello and greet Dr. Washburn. And just waiting for a couple of comments to pop through just to let me know that my broadcast is working correctly. Just want to make sure that everything is okay.
I'm seeing a couple folks.
Hello. There we go. Okay. Plus, I'm going to pull up the attendee login. Hello, 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 everyone. We are going to get started right now. Um, I am so pleased that we have this wonderful presenter with us today. Dr. Kevin Washburn is someone that's very special to me. Not only is he a friend, but he is also the director of the District of Columbia Public School Libraries. We have come a long way, baby, ever since Dr. Washburn has taken charge of the department. And everyone is saying hello, hola. It's working. Thank you. All good. So, you see Ashley Rose is here.
Oh yeah,
So just wanted to just give you your kudos because man, you have done so much for us since coming on board. And Dr. Washburn has a lot of jewels and also a lot of wisdom to share. So without further ado, I want to just pass it right on to Dr. Washburn, and I will be putting any comments on the screen for you. So if you'd like to, respond throughout your presentation. Okay.
absolutely. And I can see the chat too. Hello, everyone, and welcome, welcome. My name is Kevin Washburn, and I am the director of library programs for the District of Columbia Public Schools. And I was so thrilled when my friend Casey Boyd asked me to be a presenter at this amazing conference, virtual conference program. And I've just been ecstatic with all the attendance and all the programs and all the people involved. This has just been stellar, especially for a national free professional development for school librarians. How awesome is that? And just in time, JST, just in time, JIT. And so that is so cool that we're able to do this, connect in this amazing platform. Casey is not only my friend, but she is my spiritual soul sister. We share so much passion for the same things in terms of school librarianship. So I am thrilled to be with you today to talk to you about some trends and issues and topics. So we're going to take a forum approach to this. I don't know if there's a way to kind of bring somebody up onto the mic later if they want to comment or chat, but I certainly can browse and comment on the anything that is posted in the chat area. But the goal of this session is for us to think about what's taking place at this time and place in the profession. And so, with school librarianship as a whole, if you read any of the blogs, any of the literature, keep up with any of the school library news, we are front and center on the national forum. Now, some of it's good, some of it's bad, but I always tell folks that I mentor or coach that this is the opportunity for us to be able to manage that conversation. And we can do that through several key aspects. And so I created a little deck here for us to use as we're going through this today. Now, in the chat, if you have a burning issue that you want us to talk about or to review, please share, post. Just the three focus topics I have are by no means the most important ones, but they're things that I feel as we're heading into the new school year, whether you're a district leader or someone that's in charge of a programming or someone who wants to be. in a leadership capacity. You don't have to necessarily be a director or any other role to be a leader. A leader is someone who has their ability to make sure that they're letting others know their point of view. And so, whether that's in a job capacity or an organizational capacity, I encourage all of you to think about who you are in terms of the profession and how you can accelerate that role. Okay? So, I'm going to go ahead and present to you the first topic that I have that I want to share with you. Of course, I mean, how can we get away from all of the chaotic and confusing and troubling school library book banning? And of course, it's not just happening with school libraries. We know what's happening in the public libraries and other municipalities throughout the US. But it is still alarming. And it's alarming how such a small group of a small group of people who are passionate about what they believe are able to control the conversation. And it's very disappointing to me that we are not able to take a stronger position in this. I am so proud of our colleague, Amanda Jones, and the work that she's doing in Louisiana to battle and confront and to make individuals accountable for the rhetoric and the negative, um, confusing information that's being shared out in the world. She is someone that I have followed for a long time. She is not only uh, an excellent advocate for the profession, but she's an educator and she is a professional development gold mine. I mean, her best practice toolkit is some of the best that I have ever seen. So if you don't follow Amanda, I strongly recommend that you do this. I posted a little snapshot from NBC News where, she's just not telling people they're wrong. She's going after them now. And I'm not advocating for us to have, such a strong position, but if someone puts you in a corner, you must be able to stand up for yourself. And so, what I'm seeing and what I have tried to do in the past is I very much try to take a proactive approach because when you are working in a community organization like a school or a public library or any other aspect that's service oriented but has a relationship to a community, it is possible you're going to have people who are going to be have hidden agendas or very specific, narrow points of view that they want to focus on. And so I love all the chat that's on here. I love all the conversation about, false information. Um, but what I hope that we can walk away from this conversation is realizing that not everyone feels that way. And again, very few people, thinking about the larger community. If you have 10,000 people in your community and there are 15 people who are doing the rally cry for whatever they think is wrong, you have over 9,900 plus individuals who either don't care or neutral, or they're probably not very um, vocal about expressing their opinion. So when you have such disproportionate imbalance in that type of rhetoric, that's where you need to have a greater balance of getting people more passionate about the work you're doing as a school librarian. That's why I've always, when I was a practicing school librarian, I always had a school library advisory committee of several parents. And I had parents, I had school administration, I had community leaders, and they knew what was going on in the school library. They knew what programs I was leading. And if at any point in time I felt like there was going to be a concern, then that was my advocacy group that could say, we're very aware of what's going on and we support it. So that's one way that you can be proactive about these issues and concerns. Okay, so as you know, I between each of these focus topics, I want to stop and kind of look at the chat and give each of you a chance to kind of. I want to go through the chat and see some of the things that are there, and so Dr. T Love's book said certainly a lot of narrow points of view among decision makers in libraries and education, despite that not being the general consensus among citizens. So thank you. That's right on track. And of course, many of the things that I am sharing with you are my perspective, but it's also balanced with what I see from the literature and from the blogosphere and the social media sphere of areas of our within our domain. Jean just said decision makers about libraries should be made by librarians, but wouldn't have a dog groomer deciding surgeries because of the lack of qualifications. That's an excellent point, but I want to also, soften that a little bit and say, yes, we are the experts, but to do our job holistically and do it with passion and success, I think being able to be good communicators and to be advocates for our work in a broader sense, engaging as many stakeholders as possible, help us to be more successful. But that's my perspective. Okay. And Capedia Campbell said, I'm a library media specialist, Cobra stand up, fight for all of my students. Okay. Yes. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I think, school librarianship, that is what our focus and passion and heart is. That's how, in my journey to become a librarian, a school librarian, I had worked in every domain. I had been a public librarian, I had been an academic librarian, I'd worked in special libraries, but the blessing of having opportunity, strict purely by luck and misfortune, to decide that I was going to substitute in a school as a school librarian led me to find my life work and passion. And so for me, that was what drove me to the work, but it's because of students that I stay. And the work that I do as a district leader is because I want a better and brighter students for kids. And I care so deeply about this profession, and I want to try to do everything I can to break down barriers, to create programs and resources that are equity driven and that ensure that all students, no matter what their background, race, color, creed, nationality, um, sexual orientation, preference in life, that they have access to the very best that schools can offer. And I get a sense from all of my colleagues that I've worked with over the year, they care about the same things. They want great opportunities for kids. And that's the love and passion that we give to the work. So I'm going to move on to our next focus topics, and I look forward to seeing your. And this is a tag along to the other topic in some ways, but thinking about what is happening on a national sense, what can we do as librarians in our local capacity? And so we must become better skilled and better able. And that sometimes it takes a really harsh look internally to ourselves to become a better advocate. And so what that means is we have to see, how are we willing to step outside of our comfort zone to speak up on behalf of the profession, speak up on behalf of our practices, to make a difference and educate a broader community. So in this case, I really believe we can't rely or hope or expect national organizations like ALA, AASL, and NCTE, ISTE, any other organization to advocate for us. That is I philosophically a great prospect, but I don't feel like it's realistic in terms of where we are as a society. Many organizations, in terms of their mission and vision, don't always do grassroots advocacy. And that's where we have to be able to champion for ourselves. But we don't have to do this in isolation. And I feel like that's a really big problem with our work. Um, I have, in my now 7, 8 years as a district leader, that's the barrier that I've been trying to break down is get people to be more comfortable in a um, networking community capacity to be able to share their practices, share their work, their passion, their joy. But sometimes that comes from being able to know your strengths, your weaknesses, and how you're able to move above that. And so as frontline individuals, often engaged with parents and school leaders, these are the things that we need to be mindful of. Whether your strength lies in your ability to do research and publish your writing, whether you are mentoring someone, you're creating programs, or just in general trying to make sure that you're doing the very best that you can. And I'm sure other people have ideas about how we can strengthen our advocacy too. So I'm going to turn to the chat and take a look at some of the cool stuff that I saw pop up along the way.
There were two questions that were
Okay,
earlier. One from Donna Gray.
okay.
How can people begin to build and create an LAC in their schools, as well as can you define what does LAC mean?
Okay. So a library advisory committee, LAC, and sometimes they're called library media advisory committee, and many states actually have structures for it. And I don't know. Some of you may know that I started my career in North Carolina as a school library media specialist, and from there, the wonderful folks that had mentored and led our state had a foundational document around what was the function of an LAC and where did that reside in the school leadership organization. And so most LACs are a committee that is authorized under the school leadership. And so to begin the process of having an LAC, you need to work with your principal. And what you're going to do in that capacity is actually share what are the goals of the committee, what is the function of the committee, and how what are the committee going to accomplish during the year. Sometimes the LAC may just be for collection development and raising money for the library. Many times it's much broader, especially in terms of when there is a book challenge, that LAC will be the committee to review the challenge that comes forth. We have a district LAC for our school district, and when librarians have a challenge, they bring that challenge forward to the district level for review. If it is a formal challenge where they've actually submitted a request in writing and they've read the materials and they can articulate what their concerns are. In our case, with our book challenge, we followed the recommendations from the American Library Association on their website. Okay, so our policies and procedures follow those almost to the letter. But LAC does more than just book challenges. They help raise funds. They address concerns around, opportunities for improving the library space. Um, they can help promote literacy. Sometimes, if they that when the LAC starts out for each year, they tend to establish our three big goals are this. And then, of course, if we get time, we will do this. Sometimes that in my previous school, I used that as a great way to recruit volunteers to help in the library so that we would have more programming opportunities. Okay. And
Another
hopefully
question. Oh, I'm sorry.
that gives you a good scope of how to do that.
Another question was how should districts support the personal attacks on librarians fighting the good fight?
Hmm. Okay. Well, um, I know how, in my opinion, how they should support it, which should be a wholehearted effort to say that we would not support censorship, that we support the American, the fifth, the opportunity for us to have the freedom to read, the statements from the American Library Association about censorship and ability to read. So that should be at least and foremost among the statements made. Now, repeatedly in school districts, we have seen scenarios, and if you go back every year or two, there's always one school district where the superintendent arbitrarily pulls a book from the shelf without following the policies or the procedures. And that's really heart wrenching because that means that there's no um, clear support or understanding of the doctrine around the free speech approach. And so when that happens, it really makes things just really much more challenging. And it's embarrassing because then what happens is that the community, when they realize that someone that's in charge isn't following procedures, they get involved in having community outcry, and they may pull in like the American Civil Liberties Union. There's all kinds of address and approach that can happen, and it's just so much easier when people follow at least the procedures and then keep wholeheartedly in mind that um, the process toward any type of free society is that we all have an equal opportunity to address and express our concerns without being overshadowed or overpowered because of either someone's faith or other aspects about minority or the society in general. So I've seen several comments around that, and that's very true. When again a small group is able to overshadow the voices of the masses. Okay, and so for our district, in the rare times that we've had a problem, it's always been that they support the free speech amendments of individuals associated with any of the challenges or opportunities. But that doesn't mean that we don't also listen carefully for the passion and concerns of the individuals who may have been offended or are concerned about the process along the way. So Casey, does that is that the last of the questions that you noted in the chat?
Yeah, and we have 5 more minutes left.
Yep. Well, good. I'll go ahead to my last talk slide, and that is about money. The world of course, we our for our libraries to be successful, we must have the ability to think about how we can grow our programs. Feel like for me and my role as a district leader, that's the one thing I've probably improved the most in the last couple of years is asking questions about where the money is, how it's being used, analyzing it, using data to support our decisions, and not. I will say that among my colleagues, they're not always as strategic as I am, and it takes a ton and ton of work to be able to analyze how information is used. I'm so grateful to the support of my senior librarians who serve on our district leadership team. I have 10 librarians who are called library corps members, and they keep me focused on the big fight around, how can we make sure that people understand what we're doing and how resources sources are being used. And we were able to statistically show this past year that for our print and digital resources that over 1 million items were used across the district. And that's powerful data. And that data says that we're not just working in isolation and then we just don't have stuff sitting on the shelves and that no one's using it. And so this picture here illustrates another problem, our dilapidated libraries. And so we're very fortunate in our district that we do have a refresh process that happens every 10 years or 15 years on a cycle. And with that process, we are able to modernize the libraries. But even within that context, we still have cases where furniture sometimes just gives up. And so, or the books are old. How do we fix this? Where does the money come from? We don't always have a clear, even on a national, local level, channel about where are the grant programs. How do people win these awards that all these monies that are given out on either by associations or other organizations. What are the best practices around making sure that the best get to take advantage of that, or the most needed get to take advantage of it? I would say I've been disheartened in the past year, especially with some of the national awards that I saw at some of the conferences that I attend, that programs that were recognized and funded, they didn't seem to have nearly the strong justification that I would expect. And so that either tells me that they were among a small group that applied, or there were more to the story, but it just wasn't being shared. And so I hope that as we keep moving toward the future and thinking about our profession, that we're going to find ways to celebrate each other, lift each other up, share program opportunities so that we can be able to know that this is the way to grow our profession, is by knowing where the money is and how we can leverage that to have better and greater resources for kids. So that's the end of my talking points. I did have, I'd love for you to connect with me. I use LinkedIn extensively, but I'm on Facebook and Twitter. I don't really have a lot of other social media outlets other than that. But, if you are interested in hearing more from me or want to know about other best practices, I'm always excited to chime in and share. And many, many other, keep putting the great stuff in the chat. I just don't want us to lose our time here. It looks like we have a couple more minutes. And um, thanks, Casey, for showing the stats from our department. And it looks like many people, share. Um, yeah, and in our society right now, it's a difficult time. For me personally, my number one passion is addressing misinformation. And so being able to call out when misinformation is being presented, especially when it's regards to cultural issues or issues around schools, those are things that I take personally, and I try to look at ways that I can confront them direct on. So, since we are down at the last minute, I personally want to wish each of you an amazing school year. I hope that your school year is filled with joy, love, and passion, that you have a chance to have an amazing programs with your students, and that you are sparked with the passion and joy that continues to be great for our profession as school librarians. Thank you so much for listening and letting me share my thoughts and do a little rambling with you. I'm just so thrilled, Casey, that you let me be part of this program.
Oh, by all means. And let's give Kevin some love in the chat, please. I'll pop it on the screen for those who are not here live to see the presentation. We really appreciate these words of wisdom, especially to round up our last uh, individual presentation for the day. We have a panel discussion that's coming up right now, but I thought it was only fitting to have a library director come in and address everyone because everybody is so hyped, excited, but there are things that we really have to give some deep thought to, going into the school year. And this is going to be a very interesting one as we start school. We haven't started in DC, but some of our colleagues on this in this PD have already started, and I'm pretty certain they can attest that things are a little different. But we're librarians. We can make it through. We can make it through this. We can do
I
it.
want to I want to give a plug for DC Public Schools. We do have 4 job openings, and so if you'd like to join us, please visit our website and go over to the About DCPS and Careers and apply for one of our 4 school librarian job openings. We would love to have you join us, and you can email me directly at kevin.washburn@k12.dc.gov, and I'll be happy to share more information with you.
Relocation expenses, virtual hug.
Yeah, here it is. I'm giving you my virtual hug.
Yeah, but the
Okay.
relocation expenses, unfortunately
There
not.
are some. I just don't.
Oh,
It's like helping you find an apartment.
Oh,
It's not
okay.
like lucrative. And then depending on where what school you go to, there may be some other pay incentives, and we
Right.
do give pay incentive for experience. So we are the highest paying school district in the Virginia, Maryland, D.C. area
And
for
think
salary.
Delaware too, now I think
For
about it.
I think so for Delaware too. But
Mhm.
I usually when I'm giving my spiel, it's just D&D. All
Yeah.
right. Well, it's 4:17. I'm going to let
Yes.
everyone go. Have a wonderful evening and take care. And thanks so much for joining me, everybody.
Thank you, and let's go to our final panel, which is our big panel discussion for 45 minutes. Let's head on over.
Take care, everybody. Have a good evening.
Bye bye.